This week's 1044 is brought to you by Chevron Delos 600 ADF Ultra Low Ash Diesel Engine Oil. It's time to kick some ash.
This week on the 1044, tips for attracting the next generation of truck drivers.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the 1044, a weekly webisode from the editors here at CCJ. I'm Jason Cannon and my co-host on the other side is Matt Cole. It's no secret to fleets that recruiting and retaining truck drivers can be challenging. In fact, the American Trucking Association already estimates that the industry is about 80,000 drivers short, and that number is just going to continue to grow.
Knowing how to approach the next generation when it comes to driver recruiting could be the difference in successfully hiring new drivers who stick around. We spoke with Megan Earhart, Executive Vice President at Relay Payments, who talks about what she has seen when visiting fleets that makes for successful recruiting of Gen Z drivers. And it's not all that different from what it takes to recruit previous generations.
What Relay is really focused on is making things more efficient in transportation through innovation. We listen to our customers, we answer the phone when they need us to, and we're really focused on driving that innovation to help in so many different ways that are really can be headaches and able to take out the friction in a really, really tough trucking environment. I think it's no matter if it's a truck driver or a dispatcher or a recruiter that's trying to get both dispatchers and truck drivers, the focus is really around respect, right? Someone is leaving because they're not being respected, either through pay or benefits or opportunities to better their lifestyle, opportunities to get home. And those that really respect those positions, especially the driving and what they're doing and what's behind it, that will get you over any hump, regardless of what generation those drivers are coming from. The other side of it, too, is just extreme transparency. That's something at Relay that we do internally and externally when we talk to people, and being very transparent in how's the business doing? How's the industry doing? Not letting people create their own narrative, but being transparent as to what's going on to be able to be really, really forward in that and driving change as things are changing.
As Megan said, no matter what generation of driver you're looking to recruit or keep happy in your fleet, it all boils down to respect and listening to their needs.
And so I've had the benefit of visiting trucking companies across the whole U.S. and Canada and being in driver meetings. Actually had drivers at one point in time, and sitting down and talking to them, having the ability to ask questions like this, right? And get feedback. And it's the boots on the ground or the wheels on the road type of feedback. Drivers are out there for a long period of time, and they're out there for a long period of time without anyone speaking to them. Mostly what people go with is drivers will have 2 interactions a day with an actual human being face to face. And at least one of those events of interactions are probably going to be negative. And so getting shippers and working with shippers that are exceptionally respectful of the trucking industry and of the drivers is an important part to keeping drivers. But when they're not listening, right, when they have a bad experience, having that conversation with them and letting them be very vocal and listening to why they want change or what they need. And it allows them to have a voice. I think in addition to that is then following up and saying, hey, we heard you. And either we can't do this, but we'll look into this, or we heard you loud and clear and we're making this change for all of drivers or this segment of our driver force. I think it's also, you've got to meet people, including drivers, where they want to be met. It's not a one solution fits all drivers. Do they really want to be home every weekend? Or would they rather be home on Tuesday because their daughter's going to play soccer on Tuesday night, right? And it's okay for them to be gone into Saturday because they would much rather be there for that soccer game, or they need to make it home for graduation. And what I've seen is when the dispatchers are focused on the drivers' lives And regardless of age, maybe they need to get home for a 21st birthday for their best friend. If they're a younger driver, those things matter. Those things are important. And by the dispatchers listening to what the driver really wants versus making an assumption that they just want to get home on the weekends, those are the types of things that can really make an impact for what people are looking for.
Megan says a lot of things she has seen during her time visiting fleets that keep drivers happy are simple gestures that go a long way. But before we hear more from Megan, let's hear from 1044 sponsor, Chevron Lubricants.
Protecting your diesel engine and its after-treatment system has traditionally been a double-edged sword. The same engine oil that is so essential to protecting your engine's internal parts is also responsible for 90% of the ash that is clogging up your DPF and upping your fuel and maintenance costs. Outdated industry thinking still sees a trade-off between engine and emission system protection, and Chevron was tired of it. So they spent a decade of R&D developing a no-compromise formulation. Chevron Lubricants developed a new ultra-low ash diesel engine oil that is specifically designed to combat DPF ash clogging. Delo 600 ADF with OmniMax technology cuts sulfate ash by a whopping 60%, which reduces the rate of DPF clogging and extends DPF service life by 2.5 times. And just think what you can do with all the MPGs you're going to add from cutting your number of regens. But Delo 600 ADF isn't just about after-treatment. It provides complete protection, extending drain intervals by preventing oil breakdown. Before, you had to choose between protecting your engine or your after-treatment system, and now you don't. 600 ADF from Delo with OmniMax technology, it's time to kick some ash.
So I've seen some really fun things in my time. I've seen a basketball game that happens every single day at noon at a trucking company, and the owner comes out. And more days than not, he's playing basketball with the drivers, and anybody else. It's a pickup game. I've seen that. I've seen people just walk the yards, right? Walk as drivers are coming in and shake their hands, whether that be a dispatcher, a recruiter, someone in HR, someone in finance, right? Coming out and they say, thank you. You know, that aspect, celebrating the positives of what people are doing and thanking them for that, as well as just spending the time. And it doesn't have to be a lot of money. It doesn't have to be food every single time, though food gets you a long way with drivers, and it should. But being able to just listen to them in different ways shows that there's care as a human being, not just as driving a truck.
Megan says that fleets have offered ownership stake to its employees through employee stock ownership plans. You often hear that referred to as an ESOP program. And that's shown some success in recruiting, along with more pride in the job from the employees.
Truly owning part of the company works regardless of industry. And at Relay, we're really lucky. Everyone's an owner here. And what that allows, and it's true ownership, right? Like, everyone knows that everyone's an owner. So you can ask harder questions. You feel empowered to push in different ways than you maybe would versus you're just getting a check every single week or once a month or every 2 weeks. And so it brings about a different level of conversation. It also allows for a common discussion point, right? Like, is that really the best thing for the business? And there's not, well, maybe it's your business, but not my business. And it's the ability to really eliminate that finger pointing that can happen. The other side of it is, and what I've seen is people are always going in the same direction. And while people might do it slightly different as they go along, everyone's pulling in the exact same direction because there's that ownership growth. And I think that happens regardless of what industry you're in when you give true ownership. And I give a lot of kudos to our founders for seeing that early and implementing it, and then having continued conversations on what that equity is worth in monetary terms, because people can start thinking about how that is building their worth, how that is protecting them from future situations, and really allowing people to focus on the big picture of where we're headed versus, what tomorrow looks like.
Investments in technology and knowing how to balance advances in technology between younger tech-savvy drivers and older drivers who may be less willing to dive into new tech is also important in recruiting.
It's amazing that how far the technology has gone and how far it has come since COVID. right? And that's been great for Relay because that's where we focus. Having an app that does things that saves time, that is forward thinking, that is innovative in a way that isn't complicated, right? Not overcomplicating. Like, let's boil this down to very simplistic ways to do business. And that's where we focus as Relay has. That has been very well rewarded by this industry because you do have both sides of the spectrum. You have long-term drivers that really didn't want to give up their flip phone, right? But it finally gave out. And so they have very simplistic phones that they use, to people that have grown up with them, don't remember life without a smartphone. And so being able to see all aspects of that and address it is really where we're focused at Relay. And I think where the industry needs to go. There have been onboard computers for years and years and years, but the simplicity is really driving what will get this next generation in the cab as a great career, not just a job.
Ultimately, Megan says keeping drivers happy all comes back to respect, regardless of what generation a potential recruit or existing employee is part of.
The way that we've got to look at it is it may not be a generational thing. It may be just as we're evolving as a culture, as a community, as a country, as a world, and what that looks like. My hope is that we've all sort of stepped back from the last 2+ years with a more empathetic view. You don't know what the person next to you is going through. You don't know what that driver on the other side of that truck is dealing with. Did he just get yelled at by someone, either on the phone or for the last 20 minutes has he been fighting in traffic? Right. And so as four-wheelers, we need to sort of have that empathetic view as well. And from an industry standpoint or a trucking company standpoint and the empathetic side, as it deals with Gen Z or millennials or Gen X or the baby boomers that are still in the truck, I think it's just understanding of where people are. Again, having a conversation of, hey, are you all right? And not having a negative idea about it. Maybe they're great. Right? Maybe they're just on cloud 9, but they always, have a scowl on their face, but they really want to tell you about what they did last weekend, and asking the questions of how are you, and not letting it go away with I'm great. Right. And developing a personal relationship is what takes us through the empathetic part, but also in showing team members, family, friends, that we care and that we want to be on the same team as them and we want to grow together.
That's it for this week's 1044. You can read more on ccjdigital.com. And as always, you can find the 1044 each week on CCJ's YouTube channel. If you've got questions, comments, criticisms, or feedback, please hit us up at 1044trucking@gmail.com or give us a call at 404-491-1380. Until next week, everybody stay safe.